I feel like every single log, at least within the period of the last few logs, we've talked about Aristotle and his ways of analyzing plays, character, plot, theme, diction, spectacle, and song. And there was a really interesting question that came up in one of the discussions we had while we were sort of learning about Holy Theater, and that is any of them, or like which of these 6 aspects is the most important? And I feel like out of every single, discussion we've had in class, I feel like that one probably struck a chord with me, the most, specifically because I wasn't really sure at the time. Thinking back on it, I feel that like out of all 6, none of them are really the most important. I feel like they all contribute to making a piece. Some of them might be a little bit more lacking than others. There's definitely ones where characters could be developed. Not every piece has song in it anymore. Even sometimes the plot needs work. I remember we were talking about one where 2 characters were literally just standing around talking, but that still has plot, that still has characters, it probably still has themes. I mean, I didn't read it, so I can't particularly comment on it, but all 6 of these elements, maybe not song, but all 5 of these elements at the very least still exist within the piece. And I think in that way they interact. You need all 6 pieces, or 5 pieces at least, for it to be a good performance. And if you have one of those lacking, unless some other aspect's really strong, maybe if the plot's lacking, you've got really, really well developed, really interesting characters, I think if you've got that, then you're okay. But other than that, I think if you're missing one of these components, you don't have a very interesting, you don't have a very thought-provoking piece that people can enjoy. So one of the classes we had in the middle of the last 2 logs was about ritualized theater and whether it had any value. And honestly, I don't think it does, at least not as much as it used to, for sure. And certainly not comparing it to, say, entertainment theater. I mean, we used to be, a socialized tribe, and I think when we had that sort of society, interactions with the audience, praying to like a higher power, not really analyzing what we were watching, kind of just like taking it in. I think all of those helped to bond us together really well, like in this tribe. But we're becoming a more civilized society and no longer in this sort of tribe form. And so I think as we, come away from like what used to be in this sort of tribal form and become more of what we are today in this sort of society we see, at least in the West, that we see today, I don't think ritual theater has the same sort of value it did back then. That being said, I don't really know what culture and theater is like in third world countries where this sort of theater is more common, so I can't really speak to that aspect of whether or not it has value. But at least in the West, in my opinion at least, I don't think ritual theater has value anymore. I think it did, but I don't think it does anymore. So one of the last classes we had, we were talking about who might have written Shakespeare, like the plays accredited to Shakespeare, and one of the prevailing theories was that it was Edward de Vere. Now, personally, I disagree with this statement, but only somewhat. I don't think Edward de Vere wrote the plays. I think he might have helped write them. I don't know if it was the man from Stratford who necessarily, put pen to paper and wrote them out, or if it was some other person who's like unknown. But I don't think it's Edward de Vere for 2 reasons. One, it wasn't forbidden at the time to write plays. People who were of nobility could still write them. It was just a bit of a more no idea. However, given the type of person Edward de Vere was, I don't think he would have followed the idea of not writing plays. I think if he wanted to write one, he would have. And in fact, there may be evidence that he did write his own plays, in which case, why write some as himself and then write others as this fictional character of Shakespeare? That being said, there are too many coincidences for him not to have contributed in some way. Like, the amount of ways that this sort of lines up with his own life, I feel that there's no way he couldn't have helped, maybe somebody else write them, given them suggestions, given them, the book of Ovid that, his uncle had helped worked on, given stories about his life for Hamlet, things like that. But I don't think Edward de Vere was the one who put, pen to paper and wrote out plays accredited to Shakespeare. I disagree with that.